So, yeah, we kind of really got off the rails.
We're all over the place. Parasite's great.
Fine. Yeah, Parasite's great. 9 out of 10. Loved it. My only problems with it were like some of the writing choices where it's like I didn't 100% buy into like how perfect everything's coordinated to get that family in there, but at the same time, like I can't. That's just a tiny little nitpick.
So for
Everything
me,
else is perfect.
I could not help it. I'm watching the movie the entire time. Every role in this movie would be better played by Josh Brolin.
So that kind of brings us to our next point is Park Chan-wook's Oldboy, which is 2003.
Wow.
Also South Korean movie.
Really fun.
And
I mean, fun is not necessarily the best word, but I was having a lot of fun.
Blast.
It's a great movie.
It's a really great movie. And for clarification, what Brennan's kind of getting at here is that there's a Spike Lee 2013 remake, which is almost worse in every single way. And if you're gonna watch any of them, you like kind of what I was saying with like the whole Asian remake stereotype is like look no further than Park Chan-wook and Spike Lee's Oldboy. But anyway, we'll get into that later. So Oldboy, spoiler free at first, is about this.
It's the story of Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider.
it's you have this guy who's like a drunk loser. He's just like a deadbeat dad kind of thing, and then out of nowhere he gets abducted and imprisoned in this like hotel room basically for it's like is it like 15 years, 20 years, 15 years. So he
Can I just throw this in real quick? It is a prison. It's not. It looks miserable.
It looks like
However, I'm looking at the room he's in compared to like my apartment and my bedroom, and I'm like, I don't know, man. You got a pretty good thing, free rent. Like you got TV, people are feeding you. I don't know. This is pretty nice, dude.
But it's So he's imprisoned in this hotel room, and he doesn't know who's done this to him or why. He has a TV that's kind of like letting him know all like the stuff that's going on
Current
in the
events,
world. Yeah,
you see 9/11 happens in the time that he's in there.
Through the TV, he finds out that his wife has been killed and his daughter has been given up for adoption.
Is he not also blamed for the murder as well? Though he's been imprisoned for.
No, he's blamed for it, and then I think everyone else is like he's run away, and we don't know where he is because it's not like a prison. It's this like rich like thing where. You have these like crazy, stupid rich people who are like, oh, I'm going to pay $1 million.
No, I know.
I
understand that. Yes. Yeah. I guess my question is,
nobody knows he's in there.
So nobody knows that he's in there, but he's been in there for some time. My impression was that he has been in there for some time when he sees the news that his wife.
I think it was early on.
Okay.
At least within a few months of him being in there.
Okay.
So,
but he didn't do it because he was in there.
No,
and he's being framed.
Whoever did it is whoever imprisoned him is also the one who had that done.
Because kind of like, I mean, you have to see Mother, but that was like another thing where I'm like watching the whole movie. I'm like, well, did he? Like, wait. And another thing I'll say about Oldboy, before we do spoilers or whatever, I knew the big spoiler.
Oh yeah.
I knew that going into the movie, which I think has kept me from watching this movie. That is great.
It's like, what's the point?
Well, what's the point? But it's also like, damn, if we're going to that gut punch, I mean, that's crazy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad you recommended it to me because I'm seeing, just what a good movie it is. Also, didn't realize like how much great action and great choreography is going on in the movie, as well as like
a lot of legit oneers.
Yeah, that hallway is so fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's like being the movie, the climax. It's actually like the anti-climax, as it were, or whatever.
yeah.
But I've noticed it not just in the choreography but it's the lighting and it's a lot of the architecture. John Wick is like, Oldboy's got its fingerprints all over John Wick in the best way. Like it's like, oh, I love this style, so keep giving it to me like that.
Right.
But I couldn't help. I was like, oh, we're all wearing suits and like the colors look the way they do. It's like weird green palettes that are accentuating everything in a fun way. The architecture is like modern but futuristic.
Right.
Like I'm not rich enough that I've seen this in my life, but I believe a rich person has this weird closet that like opens up in these 4 ways or whatever. It's so cool. So there's something to be said as well for and it's where I think we get really dangerous with these Marvel movies, these Disney movies, any movie that The Rock is in, where it's like they're all made with a giant boardroom of people that are trying to make this thing appeal to as many quadrants, ages, sex, race as possible. I mean, this might play in America, but is it going to play in China? And you get these homogenized, weird movies. When I think like American cinema at its best, the 70s, a lot of early Scorsese and everything like that, is the thing that defined so much taste for these foreign filmmakers, as you see with like your Bong Joon-ho's and everything like that.
Yeah.
And then they get to do it, or your Hideo Kojima's, who the guy who created Metal Gear Solid, and then more recently did Death Stranding, which I wasn't a PlayStation guy. I've never really have been. I was an Xbox guy. I saw this game. I heard the story of this man who was stuck with this franchise and the company Konami, and wanting to do all these ideas, and then having to Konami never letting him do those ideas, and so that he has to reverse engineer those into his Metal Gear Solid game. And then he's making what some people consider to be like technically like the best game of that entire franchise, and then he is not given the artistic control and he's fired. And then he says, "Fuck you. I'm going to go make my crazy fucking weird movie with Norman Reedus and like all these people, and Guillermo del Toro is a guy in the movie." And like, it's just going to have directors I like in it. It's wild. And it's like, it's a beautiful thing when you're like, oh, this is Hideo Unbound is like so fun. And I love seeing that, where it's just like this person, sorry to bring it back. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
This person is clearly, I love seeing that a person likes something so much that they are like, I just want this in my movie. I want this in my game. It's a nice little flair to it.
Right.
And I love that. And you don't get that. You don't get it to influence foreign cinema or anything that way with this homogenized, like we're already giving it to you in the, most rounded out way possible. It doesn't have the room to have the rough edges or whatever. So it's like, I mean, foreign cinema a lot now is what I'm looking at for like new interesting things.
Yeah.
But now I'm getting afraid.
It's been that way for a while.
Yeah, and now I'm getting afraid though. It's like, wait, what's going to happen to foreign cinema in 20 years when the Marvel movies and the Rock movies way of doing thing becomes the thing that influences it over there? Is there going to be some pushback over here from some other, area of like, in other cultures like cinema or something like that? But it's like very like, it's a little worrisome. But what I would, kind of just back to that whole thing. It's one thing I love about Bong Joon-ho is that it's, and I think what works so well for so many people is that it's like, this guy's clearly a fan of American movies, and like, it's where he learned to make movies and everything like that. He's clearly a fan of lots of movies, and he's got like strong opinions and everything like that. And it's best, for better or worse, I always want to see the movie where it's the artist's intent and everything like that. I
totally agree.
The movie where the studio made him hedge the bets is like, that's where I get, that's where my problem with like the Disney Star Wars also comes into play, where I'm a staunch defender of George Lucas's prequels. I think he made 6 amazing movies and we just weren't ready for him yet. But I also think even giving people the ground to say that the prequels are bad, it's still his fucking shit. He can do whatever he wants with it, all right? He can do whatever, and I want to see whatever he wants to do with it. So the rumors are that after the big flop that was Episode 9 for a lot of people, that fell pretty hard for a lot of people. The rumors are that George is around Lucasfilm,
working on
he's kind of
remake trilogy.
I don't know about a remake trilogy, but it's kind of like the rumor is like he will come back if he has total complete creative control. And he's already talked before about like the trilogy he would have made that deals with like the wills, like the midichlorian things. And I'm like, yeah, dude, please come back and piss everyone off. Make the movie about like the microorganisms that create the force, and like make it the least accessible movie of all time. I want to see you do it, you genius person. But yes, I want to see the auteur.
Right.
I think people get the thing confused with auteur theory, or it's like it is just one person. It's like, no, it's one person that is hired,
one vision
that knows. Yeah, he knows the strengths of the cinematographer, his editor. It's a collaborative process, obviously, but it's
everyone who has this one shared
top
idea of what our end product is going to be.
Yes,
and everything is at expense of that vision.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So all of this is to say, Oldboy 2013 is trash.
Haven't seen it.
Haven't seen it. But no, it's yeah.
So
I don't even think I finished. So it's this guy gets imprisoned in this hotel, and he finally gets out under mysterious circumstances, and his whole object is I'm gonna get revenge on the people who put me in there.
Yes.
And his wild ride that he goes on, and boy, is it a wild ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't even know. Like, it's like we touched on the action a little bit. There's a lot of great action sequences, but there's so much of like, there's so much to be said about the main. I forget his name. The
old boy. Dae-soo.
The old boy. Dae-soo, his character. I wish I could remember his name, the actor, but he does an amazing job. Like the scene where he's finally out, and he's up on the rooftop, and there's the guy who's about to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And he just is like, "Are you like?" You can see. I don't even think he says anything in that entire scene that's on camera. But he is like, he goes up to this guy who's about to jump off the side of this building and is like hugging him and like touching his hair and smelling him and like, are you real? Is this a dream?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, that's so like, with no words. It's such a powerful moment. And then also too, like the whole, he's out and he's like, oh man, I just beat up a bunch of gang members to prove that I'm a good kickboxer after all those years in the hotel.
Uh-huh.
And he goes from being this badass guy who eats a squid alive in a sushi restaurant.
I wanted to talk about that too. Yeah.
To the guy, to when his captor calls him and is like, how do you enjoy being free? To go from being a badass to like breaking down crying in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful performance.
I also thought it was powerful for him to get out, and then he's released or whatever, and after he's like fought to be released, and he's just fought to stay alive within his imprisonment or whatever, and then that guy is like trying to kill himself, and it's like, hey man, you don't. It's like your main character there, Dae-soo.
Yeah.
It's like he's almost looking at him like, you don't know how good you have it, but like I just fought. Yeah. I just was in 15 years.
Kind of within that thing where he's like, "Here's my story," and the guy's like, "Oh man, that sucks." Well, the thing about me, and he just gets up and walks off.
It's so good, so good. And then the guy fucking kills himself. That got me.
Yeah,
when the car, I was like, "Whoa!"
He doesn't even look back.
So fun.
It's so intense.
That's squid or the octopus or whatever it was. What do we think there? Is that guy eat a live squid, or is that there's some CGI there? Is there some?
I don't think it was CGI because it's 2003. There's no way that it was.
I know. I mean,
convincing. I think that if he probably. Maybe it was like he brings it to his mouth and then they quickly swap out a puppet or like a dead octopus or something. I don't know. Like,
I'm gonna get on the phone with my people at PETA. Tell them to check out this 2003 movie.
Yeah, I didn't care too much for that point. Like, that was kind of gross. But
in the Josh Brolin version, the squid talks, right? Hey, you look like an old boy to me.
In the Josh Brolin version. Oh man, I was gonna make a Thanos joke, but I can't think of a good one. Oh well, I'll put one in post.
We'll figure
later.
It out. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
It's the Oldboy 2003 is such a great movie, from just the performance, the tiny little subtle nuances of the performance and the writing, to these like huge, excellent action sequences. There's just something in it for everybody, and
it's funny.
It's
too.
funny.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, can we talk about the thing? Can we talk about the big thing?
Yeah, okay, so spoilers if you haven't seen Oldboy yet. Sorry, we spent most of that talking about tourism. Anything other than Oldboy. But yeah, Oldboy is 2000, and again, make sure it's 2003, make sure it's Park Chanwook, that it's not Spike Lee. Mm-hmm. We'll get into that a little bit more here, but yeah.
It's Nicolas Cage. It's, he's the Ghost Rider. He's got to track down Blackheart, who's Mephisto's son. We all know this. Yeah. We know the game here.
The classic story.
Sam Elliott is the crypt keeper, and he used to be a Ghost Rider, but he only has time for one more ride, so you get this really cool sequence. And I'm going to use it
to go to the place and then turn around and go right back.
And it seems like a real missed opportunity to have a cool sequence of the cowboy Ghost Rider in an action sequence. We're not doing that for whatever reason. Oldboy, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. It's a great movie. Anyway, let's talk about that twist.
The twist, yeah, man. Great. So, Great review. I mean, there's a lots of twists, especially even in that scene. There's lots of twists.
Yeah.
I think once again, the moral of this movie for me, there's morals to be learned. Like don't spread rumors, or there's like a bunch of. The moral for it is for me is like, just kill the guy when you have the chance to kill him, because if not, he's gonna stay alive long enough to tell you that you fucked your daughter. And you just need to kill the guy before you can say that stuff.
Exactly. But like, talk about a compelling bad guy too. Like, I mean, like, I don't like, obviously, like, you kind of have to be a special kind of person to be like, oh man, I really identify with him. I really identify with him. But like,
cool guy.
But that scene in the elevator when he kills himself.
That's great.
Yeah, like,
well, I was gonna say, I love it in the elevator when Dae-soo shows up and is trying to get into the penthouse, and then he can't figure it out, and then they just both just like, oh no, we're here. Like, we'll push it and we'll all ride up together. It's so fun.
Oh man.
And so obviously the reveal happens that the female lead of the film
is his daughter that he abandoned, and he's been led to believe that like his daughter was adopted, and it's not literally like an instance where he's been, the one thing you find out is that the TV he's been fed while he's in the prison has been kind of like tailored to him to make him believe certain things, and
also they've both been hypnotized.
They've both been hypnotized, yeah. So he's kind of forced into like, it's not like, I don't know. It's so there's a lot.
They don't know they're doing it.
There's a lot of
it's the Oedipus thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of evil masterminding to get our lead to do something terrible to make the bad guy prove his point.
And once again, this is all because he saw the bad guy like hooking up with his sister when they were in high school.
Yeah.
And then he said that he saw it, and now the bad guy. Okay, and so this leads to the sister's death eventually in a different way than you're kind of led to believe throughout the movie. But it's just one of those things where you're like, hey man, punishment not fitting the crime here. Like you like willingly doing incest is not a good enough excuse, and being found out is not enough good excuse to force incest upon somebody after 15 years of imprisonment. It's wild. It's
I almost wish that I was that rich that could be my biggest worry in life, is fucking someone's life over that much.
It's like it's a new level of petty. Reminds me of my ex-girlfriend. Oh boy.
Here, we got to cut.
We're good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, so like Ghost Rider's penance stare wasn't working on Blackheart because he has no soul to burn.
Damn it. Yeah.
But because he reads that magical scroll, he's got all of the souls, and it's 1,000 souls to burn. So eventually, because he's in the shadows that are in the church, he can turn back into Ghost Rider for a moment and turn his shotgun that in the light is a shotgun, but in the shadows
is a hell shotgun. Oh, man. Yeah, Oldboy. Great movie.
So, Twist is great. It's a lot of fun. I was laughing really hard because he just loses his fucking mind, as you would when you hear all this information or whatever. But like, so it's after the fight. Or, if you didn't even really call it a fight, it's him getting his ass kicked by that guy with the white hair until the main bad guy shoots that guy for whatever reason. Because he doesn't, because the torture is that guy has to live with it, right? Like that's the whole point, is that Dae-soo would have to live with his crimes. He doesn't want him killed.
Yeah.
It's like in the moments where he's like begging for
please,
Mito to know,
don't let her know.
To know, and it's like, he's like, I'll be your dog. And he starts like doing... He starts doing
that was a little
full-blown dogs. I mean, it's like, so the thing I kept thinking, and the dude's like laughing at him or whatever, but the thing I kept thinking is like, so he gets down, he's a dog, he's being a dog, he starts shaking his butt, he's doing all this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but dude didn't agree to the terms of like,
I'll be your dog.
You be my dog, I won't tell her. And then he starts like licking the dude's shoes, and I'm like, dude, he still hasn't agreed to the terms. You really don't need to be doing all this. And then he cuts his fucking tongue off, and I'm like, dude, you need to get some shit in writing before you keep going here.
But I think at the same, like the whole I'll be your dog, like that, like I get what it is ridiculous and it is really funny, but I think it makes sense. No, like he's so desperate that he's like, I'm willing to try anything. And that's
absolutely illustrated.
I feel like in that moment too, he's also like so far gone where it's
Yes.
like, oh my god, all this horrible shit. Like I can't even imagine how I would react if someone was like, hey, guess what you've been doing the past week? Like, it's just
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's just wild as hell. And it's just like, once again, get something in writing before you cut your tongue off for like the agreement. Make sure that the other party has consented to the agreement and is like, yeah, that sounds like a good trade-off here. Like,
yeah. But yeah, Oldboy 2003, really good.
So the ending, though.
The ending, yeah.
Does he know?
I think it's meant to be ambiguous.
I think he knows.
I think it's meant to be like a. Does he know, or maybe he's like he? But is it a scenario? I think it's meant to be a scenario of, does he know, or is he remembering something terrible? Like, was not everything completely blocked out through that hypnotism?
So when I'm watching it, I get a very Shutter Island vibe, where it's like it's something in the smile and something in the eyes. Shutter Island might be a little more subtle, but like with Shutter Island, I get the vibe out of the ending there that DiCaprio's character has not accepted the fate that is being put before him.
Right.
But he has also accepted the fact that he hasn't accepted the fact that he is Andrew Liz, this murderer or whatever. But
he's accepted that he's crazy.
He's accepted that, well, not even that he's crazy even. He's accepted that, like, well, this is my fate. I'm going to get lobotomized on this island because I'm never going to be satisfied, and that's, like, what's going to happen. So I feel like there's a very knowing look between DiCaprio and Ruffalo where he's kind of like, where he says the thing, or he says the thing that leads Ruffalo to be like, damn, you're still crazy. And then kind of gives him a look like, am I? Or am I just saying the thing so we can get this over with here? So I felt like there was that very kind of same thing. I felt in Oldboy, it was a little bit more telegraphed, where I felt like very clearly like the change on his face to me is like, nah.
Yeah.
It felt very much like the smile at the beginning is like, I don't remember it. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
What don't I remember?
I
remember the whole thing. It's like...
Then that's not to say like it has like again it's a very great movie, but it does have moments where it's like a little bit like, I don't know, a little too over the top, maybe a little bit too telling, but it is thoroughly a great movie, I think, start to finish.
Yeah. The Leslie the Third of the Great Struggle Session podcast, don't know him in person, but he tweeted recently something like, filmers really hate when stuff is obvious, and my response to that was like, yeah, when it's American, yeah, but like when it's foreign, it's a really cool choice. like, that couldn't be more of like a up my own ass kind of like, oh, these how dare they go so on the nose, but it's like, but you see, in their culture, on the nose is good.
Right,
it's just like, oh god, smell my own fucking farts.
Okay, yeah. So I guess last topic we'll touch a little bit on the Spike Lee remake, which you said you haven't seen.
I haven't seen. I'm also not a crazy big fan of Spike Lee.
Me neither. I like a lot of his earlier stuff. I really like Do the Right Thing. I kind of liked Summer of Sam. I think that not a lot of people talk about that one, and Black Klansman, I enjoyed. Like I
enjoyed
moments,
it. I'm afraid to say it, but I will say it.
there were moments where I'm like, okay, this is a little like, too.
So I hate to be this guy, but so Black Klansman and Black Panther, I have unfortunately the same feeling, and maybe this is very telling, where I was like, oh, the villainous white guy in that movie. I really liked him. I liked Topher Grace and what's his name?
Andy Serkis?
Yes, Andy Serkis as Klaus in Black Panther. I was like, yes, this character that we've been setting up for like 3 years for nothing, like since Age of Ultron, finally gets a chance to let Andy Serkis like have fun, and he's really doing good, and then he's dead. And I was like, well, what are we doing here? At least I have a Hobbit to latch onto. At least I have a Hobbit to be. But yeah, I mean, I really liked Topher Grace in Black Klansman, and I think Paul Walter Hauser. Is Paul Thomas Hauser or Paul Walter Hauser?
Is he the one?
He's the guy from I, Tonya. He was also Richard Jewell.
Yeah. Okay.
I think he's in that, and he's very good, too.
Yeah, he was good. Black Klansman I liked a lot.
And Isaiah Washington's great. Like, everyone
right. Everyone, the performances are great. I think that's my favorite part about that movie is the performances.
Yes, and I just think the only reason I really, like, Topher Grace stands out for me is I just like Topher Grace. Yeah, I really like when he's doing something.
It's such a strange role for him, too.
It's strange, but it's, like, also plays right into his skill set of, like, yeah, this guy's a smug asshole.
Yeah,
Like, fuck
yeah.
That's everything Topher Grace has ever always been. You know, somehow he was likable as Eric Foreman. But like, even when I go back and we watch that '70s show, I'm like, how are you not getting your ass kicked by Hyde and Kelso on the reg, man?
Right. Yeah, but it's Spike Lee. I like a lot of his earlier work, but you can, whenever you watch like interviews of like when he was doing the press for, like when he's doing the press for something like BlacKkKlansman versus doing the press for Oldboy, you can tell he's way more into the fact that
passion project.
Yeah, the passion.
Like
He's very like, but like you could not try harder to show your disdain for like there's a bit where I forget, he was on some interview show. I wish I could remember it, but it's like, it's a well-known show, and the guy was like, oh man, so the host was like a really big fan of the original Oldboy and was like,
so he just wants to talk to another legendary filmmer about a remake of a legendary film.
Yeah, he's like, oh my god, I love Oldboy. How are like, and you're doing a remake of it. Like, how are you gonna like? Are you excited? Is this like something you're like? What are you gonna do to like? How are you gonna do this film justice? And he's like, oh, you know, it's a reinterpretation. I'm gonna. I think he literally, like you joked earlier where he was like, somebody had to do it. I think he jokes like, it was gonna happen eventually. It might as well be me. Like, so, but he, like, every single choice about that movie, like they make for the worst. Like it's just that whole thing of like things getting lost in translation, where there's a YouTuber I like called Your Movie Sucks, where he did a review of the 2013 Oldboy. But what he did was, he didn't just sit down and say, here's all the things I don't like about it. He would say,
here's why it's bad in comparison.
Sort of. He would do an overview of the first 10 minutes of the original Oldboy and say, look at everything that's great about this first 10 minutes, and look at how they handled this, look at how they shot this, how they performed it, how they like from the beginning of the movie up until the guy gets kidnapped. And he said, okay, now let's take that exact same time frame from the beginning of the movie up until when he gets kidnapped in the Spike Lee movie, and let's see how every single choice that they made.
Is it around the same time, like movie wise, or does Spike Lee take longer to get
Spike Lee takes twice as long, literally.
Of course.
The first like 10 minutes of Oldboy is
all tracking shots.
Yeah, it's him in the police station up until him getting abducted.
Okay.
And it's 20 minutes in Spike Lee's Oldboy. He literally makes that point in that review. So, but anyway, point being, there's just so many points in that remake where it's like, you had gold. There was no reason for you to change this. And it begs the question, like you said earlier, what movie did you see where you think that what you're doing here is better,
indicative of the themes
than what you're doing here? Yeah. So
two questions. Is the twist still the same?
Yes, it's still the same, but it's done way worse. There's no hypnotism.
Okay.
So it's like the whole thing is like, hey, by pure luck, we tricked you into having sex with your daughter.
Yeah.
It just so happened that the first woman you bumped into while you were out was your daughter, and we it's just like.
See, I like them pulling the strings a little bit more. My other question is like, and this is real. When I turned the movie on, when I watched 2003 Oldboy, and I'm aware of this lackluster 2013 movie with Josh Brolin, and you got this drunk inside the police station with angel wings on, I was like, if I could see them not putting Brolin in these angel wings. It doesn't happen. The most he doesn't have the angel wings in the movie?
Instead of, so again, what's one of those decisions that's made for the worst? In the 2003 Oldboy, you have this thing of like, he has these angels. He's like, oh man, my daughter's great, and like, I'm missing her birthday for this, but like I go home and I'm gonna be a good dad and I'm gonna sober up this time. And like, you can tell this is like the 20th time he's given this speech. Brolin is in his like office or whatever, and his wife calls him and is like, did you even pick up a present for your daughter's birthday? And he's like, no, I told you I'm working. What's this birthday? She's gonna have other birthdays. Like, that's like
typical like American movie. Let's get the bitchy wife in for the exposition.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's just every single thing they do is so much worse. Charlton Copley plays the incest guy, and the whole movie, like you mentioned earlier, where you can tell like, I'm in a bad movie and I'm just gonna ham it the hell up. The whole movie, he's like, he has this like really high, like your stereotypical high pitched like evil Bond villain voice. Yeah, basically like the bit where in the original where he's like, you called her a whore, and like he kills like Daisu's friend. Yeah. Like the same scene happens in the new one, but Charlton Copley comes in, he's like, you called her a whore, and like slices his throat open, and it's so
that guy
hilarious.
doesn't like I think that guy is so interesting because like District 9 like made him,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, does he take direction?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
No.
I think like he maybe received a direct because he mainly works with the District 9 director.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
done
yeah.
like 3 things with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think like so Oldboy is Spike Lee, so clearly a different director. That like reads to me like when you got a guy like that where he's like, okay, so maybe do the line this way, and he's like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Exactly.
I'm
yeah.
South African.
I'm Sharto Copley.
We're still talking about a District 9 sequel. I don't know why. It's not good for anybody. You know, it was originally going to be the Halo movie.
That's the vibe that I get. But yeah, the point is just like every single decision that gets made in that remake it's for the worse, and it just boggles your mind. Where it's like, why did you? It's just you ask the question, why did you think this would work? What part of you made you think any of this was going to be?
But it's also
better?
just the interesting, and we can wrap up soon. But it's that interesting thing. It's like, I want you to get it right. But also you got your Zack Snyder Watchmen where it's like that's a pretty to the T adaptation, still only about like 30% of like what you're getting when you read the source material. But also people are like, yeah, I guess I didn't really want to just watch the comic book. I didn't want that. So there is something to be said like adapt from the source material. Mm-hmm. But then you get, you know, it's
if
such
you're going to change something,
such a difficult line.
Yeah, if you're, but I
you don't
think,
want to be Gus Van Sant.
Exactly, but I think if you're going to change, I'm not asking, hey, Spike Lee, go just do shot for shot 2003 Oldboy. But I think that you need to sit down, and what I think they didn't do is, I think you need to sit down and really study that first one and really look at, okay, what makes this work? And how can we take these elements that make it work and how can we improve upon them with our own unique way? Because by default, nobody is going to be satisfied who's a fan of that first movie.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, what can we do to get that audience? Because if we can get that audience, by default, we'll get everybody else. And they didn't do that.
Yeah. And I don't know that Scorsese was necessarily trying to do this, but I mean, like, the way to do it is the way he did with The Departed and Infernal Affairs. And that's a Japanese movie, we're talking about all these Asian movies. I don't want to seem like I'm, like, lumping them all into the gumbo. I believe that's a Japanese film. But that's a great movie, too. But then The Departed is like, yeah, but it's Boston, and it's kind of a Whitey Bulger thing. Mm-hmm. And then you got all of these great American actors, like, at the top of their game, having fun and, like, doing everything there, where it's like, yes, but you took the themes, you took all the things that work, cinematography style, like, you know, clearly paying an homage while doing something different, treading that same line, but like, that's the way to do it. If you have to do that, I say don't do that. Just make an original thing, and I'm always gonna like the original thing, even if it's in its trashiest form, more than I like the thing that is like, yeah, well, it's a paycheck because, you know, Netflix bought the live action One Piece or something like that. I mean, like, Netflix is all over that shit.
Yeah. So, I guess let's wrap it up. So, Parasite, amazing movie. Very hesitant about this remake, but I'll give it a chance.
Who knows that it's a remake? You know, it could be.
Yeah, it could be.
You know, it's like that was one of the things I like with the Fargo TV show is that you could argue that the first season is kind of a remake of the movie.
Yeah, but it's like it's like like how the prequel to The Thing is, and that's not. I don't like. We can get into that a whole other day, I did get into that in the first episode. Exactly. But that is kind of like it is a prequel, but it's a remake. You know what I mean?
Well,
so like similar
sort
of thing. Yeah.
Very interesting. And then when you get into like seasons 2 and 3 and now coming out 4 of like Fargo, it's like, oh, well, this isn't, once again, it's like, it's that tone, it's the themes, it's the tone. It's like very Coen Brothers, even though they're only, I think, involved in the sense that they have their name on the show or whatever. Noah Hawley is really, is a top notch. I think he did something that came out, I think he did a movie this year that came out that didn't do super well, but I liked the first season of Legion. And I like all of Fargo, even season 3. Sue me.
That's something I gotta add to my watch list.
Yeah.